Welcome to the DRF College Sports Podcast, brought to you by DRF Sports. Daily Racing Form, America's most trusted name in horse racing, is now providing sports bettors with exclusive data analytics, previews, videos, and expert picks on all major sports. Bet smarter and have more fun doing it. It's the DRF College Sports Podcast, and now your hosts, Jack Fitzpatrick and Bennett Conlin. Ready, set, bet.
It's a fantastic Thursday. Welcome into the DRF College Sports Podcast. I'm hyped. March Madness is almost here. I'm drinking some coffee. I think it just hit while I was doing that intro. And I'm joined by the one, the only, the losing record, Bennett Conlin. How are you doing on this? We're recording Wednesday. How are you doing on this fantastic Wednesday evening?
Yeah, so the weather's getting better here. I'm kind of in the DC area. It's warming up.
Yep.
Selection Sunday, Jack. I have a dentist appointment on like March 14th. And on March 13th, it's Selection Sunday. So when this was scheduled in my head, I almost said this out loud. The dentist, I'm glad I didn't. I almost was like, that's the day after Selection Sunday.
That's the day I have to fill out my bracket.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to be filling out brackets during that time. So I'm not sure this is even doable. But no, I'm excited for college basketball to get down the home stretch here. I have a hard time with some of the bubble, and maybe we'll get into that later, where you'll see a team and they're like 18 and 12, and they're like, they're one of the last 8 in. They're 500, but I guess they're getting in. So maybe a weak bubble this year. Some of the mid-majors, the A10, I feel like they're getting disrespected. But losing record, I'm only 30 and 32. So we can swing that this weekend, and you can stop saying that at the beginning of your podcast, because you had a losing week last week for the first time in a while. So you're facing some adversity here for the first time in months.
Yeah, what? I was 1-2. It was
It
was a tough week. I have to go back and check my bets. Not great. However, I bounced back last night. Tuesday night, I was on what was I on? I was on Arkansas when I placed it. It was a pick'em, so I got Arkansas minus 110 money line. Fantastic value. I saw that, and I was like, how in the world is Arkansas a pick'em with Florida? Are we overvaluing that Florida win over Auburn that much? And then I was also on – what was my other game? I feel like sometimes you know my picks better than I know my picks.
That's a good question. Was it Connecticut, Villanova?
No, because I would have been on Villanova actually in that spot, and they did cover a bad beat type of.
I know
cover,
you're two for the Wednesday games. I can't
Iowa.
remember.
I was on Iowa -6, and they absolutely obliterated Michigan State. We'll get to this. We'll do a couple quick hitters after the low thrill score breakdown.
Sure.
But I mean, we got to talk about, is Michigan State a fraud?
That's a good question. It kind of seems like they are, but yeah.
And we'll answer that in a little bit. But before we dive into low thrill scores and get this episode going, just got to remind everyone that DRF Cash Grab is out, and it's available to you in the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. It's absolutely free to play, and you win real money. You download the app, you start predicting, answering questions like, who will win the Auto Club 400 this weekend in Fontana? Will Xavier or Seton Hall win the game? Who will have the most points? What will the total be? Really just simple questions that you answer in the app, about 5 to 10 questions a game, and you can win real money. Jackpots ranging. We've had a jackpot of $56,000 for Super Bowl 56, and then smaller jackpots around $50, but it really just ranges. So go ahead and download the DRF Cash Grab app in the iOS Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Start predicting and start winning real money. And while you're at it, head to www.drf.com/sports. You can sign up for free. And when you sign up, you get our exclusive rundown, the rundown. It's going to be a daily newsletter in the next couple of weeks around March Madness. But right now it's weekly, giving out picks. Last weekend, went 1-1. I was on Illinois, and then I was on Ohio State when Ohio State lost to Iowa. So that was a tough one. But a 1-1 weekend. Last weekend, we're coming back with some more, but it's a great time, and if you follow Bennett too, you get some great picks from him as well.
I'm always handing out winners, Jack.
Except when you've handed out 32 losers on your best bet. But we won't dive into that. We'll dive into low thrill scores, though. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go. I don't ever prepare for these, so yes, I'm
Do
ready.
you really not? Because last week it sounded like you had some prepped answers ready to go on your
I might have
pick.
looked at maybe I looked at one last week, or I was just rambling on the spot. I rarely look. Did we? I forgot to double check last week. I checked our picks, but I didn't check the low thrill scores because I was hot the week before.
You were hot the week before. I also, too, forgot to double check. We'll have the answers on next week's podcast as we normally go every 2 weeks. We'll compile the records. But last week you did pick my computer's being weird. I'm not sure. All right.
I think I leaned pretty heavily on some. One of them, I think I got one. I think it was last week, right? It was IUPUI had a solid showing, or maybe they were just had one that wasn't even a low thrill score. But I remember we were pretty darn excited about the boys and how competitive they had been
Yeah,
recently.
Yeah, I remember you were on that. I think it was the first win they had. It was not. It was the second to last low thrill score, and you didn't pick it because of that.
Sure,
But
sure. Yeah, I think I did okay just scrolling through quickly some of these. I know an Ivy League game got in there. I think I might have had Columbia covering IUPUI, best bet in sports. They've covered pretty well recently. They're trending come March Madness. They're a team that if you're filling out your bracket and you're not aware of them, I like how I say them like them. I can't remember their mascot. But good team, quality team.
the Jaguars,
Really?
the IUPUI Jaguars.
That doesn't make any sense. All right. Do they
No.
have those in Indiana?
But are they in? Okay, we've rambled way too long. Let's dive into this. Let's do it. Southern Miss at North
Okay.
Texas. Who do you got?
Like North Texas here. They've won a bunch of games in a row. They played Southern Miss, only won by 9 the last meeting. They're at home in this one. Spread looks like it might be like 20, 23 points. I don't really care. I think North Texas is a really good basketball team that has a reasonable, like it's borderline at large resume stuff from them.
Yeah, 39th in Ken Palm. They're looking really good in the CUSA. They have to beat UAB probably, or maybe even La Tech. We talked about it last week about who comes out of Conference USA.
Yeah.
But Mean Green last year had a really fantastic CUSA conference run. I think they won a tournament game too.
Yeah. I want to say they might have beaten Purdue or at least played Purdue close in very recent memory.
Yeah.
That might
Moving
have
to
been last year.
Friday after you pick North Texas at -23. San Jose State. This is another terrible team against a really good team. San Jose State against San Diego State. San Diego State is looking to be about a 21-point favorite.
Yeah, kind of similar logic from the last one. They've already beaten San Jose State on the road, but only by 10. So I kind of like them to have a really solid showing here. They tend to be very, very good at home,
Yeah,
which most
It'd be
teams
awesome.
do. But they're legit at home, really good. Coming off kind of a heartbreaking 1-point loss to Boise State on Tuesday, so a couple days ago. That's a really good Boise State team, though. So I think they bounce back with a blowout home victory, and then kind of go down the home stretch here with some challenging resume style games.
Might be a fun bet on that one too. The under. San Diego State has one of the best defenses, but one of the worst offenses in the country. They play at a really slow tempo. All the things that make up for a good under play, especially because I don't think San Jose State's going to score a lot either. Even though it's going to be like a 21-point spread and they'll probably cover that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 40-62 game, like in all honesty.
Yeah, I could see it being pretty gross. Be kind of fun to look at if you could get team totals. I think that'd be a fun way to spend a Friday.
Yeah, at 11 p.m. on my birthday, I'll be watching San Jose State, San Diego State.
Happy early birthday.
Thanks. It's the golden birthday. It's the 25th on the 25th. So William and Mary travels to Hofstra on Saturday. Who do you got? Hofstra's favored by 20.
So this was kind of funny, right? Because William Mary stinks. That like hasn't really changed all year, but they did start conference play 2-0, including a win over Hofstra, which was hilarious because they were temporarily in first place of the league after only winning one non-conference game, and it came against Mary Baldwin. They're 5-24 this year. They've lost, I think, 7 in a row now. They've been somewhat competitive in the last couple. Like they gave Delaware a good run, but on the road they really struggle. I think Hofstra is a good team. Last game of the year on the road, I have a hard time thinking William Mary is going to get up for that game. And it's not quite senior day. They've got the February 28th. Hofstra has one more home game. I'm guessing that might have been a COVID push. So I don't know if they have any festivities on Saturday or what the deal is, but I love the way they're playing at home. I think I would take them minus 20. So I'm on the on all the favorites here, I guess, for the first 3 days. I don't know what Sunday holds.
I've agreed with you on North Texas and San Diego State. I disagree on Hofstra. I think William and Mary can cover the 20-point spread.
They're certainly capable. They're bad, but they're certainly capable.
They're really bad. My thinking is I don't think Hofstra can they'll call off the dogs at some point. And
I like Hofstra having lost the first meeting. I think that fires them up a little bit and they just blow the doors off them.
All right, very fair. Sunday, you have a fantastic A-10 showdown. The Jameer Nelson Jr. lists George Washington crew after I think he played at George Washington before transferring. George Washington goes to the other George in the A-10, this one of Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense, the way the setup was? Mason's a 10-point favorite against George Washington. This is in Fairfax at Eagle Bank Arena. Who do you got?
Yeah, so Mason hasn't won. And granted, George Washington would be, one of the worst teams they've played in a while, but they haven't won a game by 10 or more points, or by more than 10 points, since December 21st when they beat American by 23. So it's been a while. Their last 2 wins have both come in overtime. They had a road loss recently to a Fordham team that's not that good. I think George Mason might kind of rally the troops for the conference tournament and find a way to maybe have a good performance or two. But I think GW has been solid enough recently to cover a 10-point spread.
Out of all of the spreads for you to pick the underdog on, it's of course the smallest one at plus 10. That tracks. That makes sense.
That kind of speaks reasonably well to Sunday's slate of games. That the worst thrill score there is a 10-point spread.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking at the spread, and the spread doesn't necessarily jump off the page to me. There's a Juwan Howard-less Michigan team playing a fantastic Illinois team, Ohio State at Maryland, St. John's at DePaul, Indiana at Minnesota. Nothing about this slate.
I don't think it's not like an elite slate of games, but there's enough of all of them seem like they'll be competitive. So if you are watching games, it's not like, oh wow, these are going to win. Teams are going to win the national title, but there's a pretty good chance of watching on Sunday the game is competitive.
Yeah, and that CBS slate from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., Illinois, Michigan from 2 to 4, and then Ohio State at Maryland. If Maryland shows up, that could be a good game.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
All right. So you mentioned some bubble talk. I think it's important to talk about how weak the bubble is, right? So I'm looking at Joe Lenardi's bracketology.
Let's look up how accurate Joe is here for the people.
All right. He's looking that up. I mean, Lenardi is probably I think he wasn't even that accurate though, but it's just the most accessible, easiest one, quick layout. If you want to pull up another
55th. Oh, I mean, just disappointing.
Pull up a more accurate one so we can have a more accurate bubble talk.
You can keep talking about his bracketology.
Okay. So as of right now, the last 4 buys, so the next 4 in, I guess, Miami, UNC, Creighton, San Francisco. Then the last 4 in, Michigan, Indiana, Memphis, San Diego State. First 4 out, SMU, BYU, Oklahoma, Dayton. Next 4 out, Florida, Kansas State, Oregon. What a fall from Oregon had that really good stretch going, and then they've just had a couple really bad losses to put them in this next 4 out category. St. Bonaventure.
Some of these teams should have been buried weeks ago. Like St. Bonaventure had such a horrendous start to the season that if you're looking at quality teams to make the event, you should have had them needing to win their conference tournament. The fact that they can maybe find a way to get in without that is crazy to me. I still think they're really good and could be a force if they do put things together, but it's a weak bubble, and one kind of has me questioning, I think VCU is starting to find their way into some brackets now. which is good to see. But like, there's teams like VCU, when you watch them play, especially with Ace Baldwin healthy, it's crazy to me that you'll look at like 14-11 Michigan and be like, no, they need to get in, and not like VCU, which is like 14-4 when Baldwin plays and looks awesome, plays electric defense. Like, I think there's that element of it for me where it's frustrating to see how some of the mid-major bubble teams are analyzed, but at the same time, like, good Lord, some of these bubble teams are just trash. Like, the fact that they're in the mix is crazy.
Michigan is a bad basketball team. I know they kind of rattled off a few good wins, but like, I don't think I've ever watched Michigan this season and been wildly impressed. And you wrote an article on this over at, I think, mibets.com. About them. They have 5 games left in their season, and they don't have their head coach. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Michigan falls down. If you want to kind of plug your article and talk about what you found, like,
sure, how
will Juwan Howard not being at the helm for Michigan impact them during this 5-game stretch?
I think it's a good time to bet Michigan. So they play. I talked with Chase Kitty, our good friend, who works at BetMGM as a writer and an analyst there, and he also co-hosts a podcast that analyzes a lot of different sports. But they play Rutgers on Wednesday, so we're recording this. By the time people listen, that game will be over. They're at home. They're like 5.5, 4.5, 5.5 point favorites in that one. But they're also missing a couple players because Juwan Howard was suspended, the head coach, for the rest of the regular season. So the final 5 games, but the players are out the 1 game, so the Rutgers game. But after that, the next 4, 3 of them are at home. I think they've got a decent chance. Phil Martelli is their interim head coach. He has 444 career head coaching wins from his time at St. Joe's. Not your typical interim head coach, right? A guy who's got almost 450 head coaching wins. Like, that's pretty darn good. He's been around a while with the program since 2019. So I think it's a decent time to bet him, because I hear you a little bit where, like, they've had some losses where you're like, what is this team doing? Or even some wins where you're not overly impressed with them. But they do have a sneaky good, considering how bad the bubble is, a sneaky good like set of wins where you got San Diego State as a win, and then Purdue recently in the blowout win. They now have a road win at Iowa. So it's not the best resume in the world, but like with chances left against Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa, Ohio State, and 3 of those 4 at home, if you can grab a couple of those and maybe go 3-2 down the stretch and you're 17-13 going into the Big Ten tournament with a good collection of wins, I think they still have a chance to find their way in, which is crazy. But I think they're a team, to your point, I think they're a team that's maybe worth betting, because there's been a lot of coverage, which is sort of what Chase Kitty said in the article. I quoted him. A lot of coverage surrounding Juwan Howard and the slap punch, whatever you want to call it. It was open hand. So, Jack, I've never actually been in like a legitimate fight, but I don't know if it's a punch, more of a slap. But anyway.
I love how people were reporting on it too. An open-handed hit. So a slap.
It was essentially a slap.
Let's call a spade a spade. It was a slap.
Like a heavy slap. Definitely not. I wouldn't call it a punch because it was from so far away and open hand. But anyway, we can get into that later, I guess. But I think they're a good team to bet down the stretch, because I think people are going to think, oh, they're suspended. I don't know how much a casual bettor is going to pay attention to like the players only getting that 1 game suspension. I think they might think, oh, Michigan's in a tailspin, they're a joke, and fade them. But with the games at home, like, I think they could win 3 or 4 in a row here with Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa. I think they could go on a little bit of a run, because I think they're a good enough team, especially when they have, everyone available after the suspension, playing the games at home. And Chase Kitty also made a great point that's like, they have a ton to play for. Like, yeah, their coach is suspended, but like, they're very much on the bubble, and they get their coach back in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning, and this is the time of year when you hear this word thrown around, they don't have a bad loss on their resume. They might have 1 bad loss, maybe 2 on their resume, but a lot of their losses are good losses. To Seton Hall at home, so that kind of hurts, but it's still a quad 1 loss. Arizona, UNC, and then you look at their Big Ten losses, none of them are terrible. Their worst loss is probably UCF.
Yeah, UCF and Minnesota are the 2 that are like, those aren't the best, but they're not
terrible.
They're not killer, no. And they've got some wins that kind of back it up. So I feel like that helps a lot too, when you're a power conference team and you can be like, well, we've beaten Purdue and Iowa. Yeah. That's something that like a VCU can't really point to, just because they don't have those in the A10.
Yeah. And then another team that kind of rattled off a lot of wins looked to move from an extremely disappointing season back into that bubble talk. And now they're the next 4 out. So a lot has to happen for them to get back in. Is Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Dana Altman had them struggling. They had a terrible loss to BYU where they didn't even break 50 points. They started the season 5-5, 6-6. So they started around 500. Then they rattled off a bunch of wins. And then coming into a February 12th matchup with Cal, they were sitting at 16-7, looking solid. And then you lose to a bad Cal team. You bounce back with a win over Washington State. But in their last two bad losses, and I think the Arizona State loss is absolutely horrendous on their resume. I don't think they can bounce back from that.
That one's bad. The Arizona one was like super impressive and made me think they were a tournament team because they played like a hell of a game, 84-81 on the road.
Yeah.
That game was sweet. But like then you have the Cal and Arizona State losses, double digits to these like bad Pac-12 teams. What are you doing? Like just what are they doing? I don't know. Like you have road wins at UCLA and USC, and then you have a home win to Cal. I mean, home loss to Cal, home loss to Arizona State earlier this year. So they've been swept by Arizona State. Like, what are you doing? It's really hard to get a feel for this Oregon team. I still kind of think they're good. I think I'm going to go back to the well with them this weekend. But like, God, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense.
I guess that's a question. They probably aren't going to make the tournament, but is there value in betting them here the next couple of games if you're going to go back to that well?
I think they will I think they got a chance to make the tournament. I think they've got a chance because they're on the weak bubble. They already have a couple good ones. If you can get another one, like if you sweep UCLA or you sweep USC
or both,
that's good. Or both. It's just wild to me that like their resume would be so different if they could even have just split with Arizona State or gotten, that game against Cal. Like you just can't, when you're on the bubble in that position, you can't drop those games against like winnable games, especially after you came out of the gates this season. Like you didn't even care, just apathetic. Blowout loss to Houston. BYU beat you by like 30. BYU is a solid team, but BYU shouldn't beat any like team that wants to make the tournament by 30.
Here's a question for you. True or false? If Oregon wins against Cal and Arizona State, the 2 games they lost by double digits, if they win those games, true or false, their last 4 buys. So they're like solidly inside the tournament.
I would say yes.
Okay, so you say true. Okay.
I would say yes. I think some of it is the margin, and I've gotten like into, I wouldn't say fights with people on Twitter, but like back and forth with Virginia fans that have been pretty pleasant, to be honest with you, about like why certain teams are where they are in KenPom or the net. And I think the thing that most fans like don't consider or maybe don't fully understand is like the margin of victory matters. Like losing by 24 to Arizona State is different than losing by like 1 on a buzzer beater in terms of how it hurts your metrics. Yeah. Just like winning by a lot. And I think that should factor in. I've seen some people saying like, oh, Tony Bennett, man of class, always calls off the dogs. It's like, no, like Virginia's not in a position to blow a lot of teams out, which the metrics kind of reflect, which is why they're not quite where they are. And I think the same goes for Oregon. Like Oregon's metrics would be so much better if their losses to BYU and Houston and Cal and Arizona State were like 2-point losses. But if you lose to someone by like 40, that's a non-competitive loss, and that's kind of how the analytics look at it. So yeah, I think if those 2 double-digit bad losses were wins, I think because of the scoring margin flip, I think their metrics would be a lot better, and I think they'd be somewhat firmly in, or at least in at this point.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Is there any other team on the bubble that you think has a really solid chance of getting in or not getting in? Because looking at it, I think Memphis is teetering. I think I think San Diego State is pretty solidly in, and I think a team that has a potential to really jump in and solidify itself is Dayton.
I agree with all of that. If you want to elaborate on that, feel free. If not, I have a how many bids question for you.
Just my quick elaboration. I think Memphis is teetering because Memphis has some bad losses on its resume, and in a not too strong AAC, a loss to a team not named Houston is probably going to knock you out of last four in to first four out pretty quickly. I think they're the team that's riding that. And I think San Diego State's probably going to win out in the Mountain West. And the Mountain West is probably a multi-bid league as of right now. And so with each win, it's only going to solidify their spot. Same with Dayton. Each win in the A10 is going to really solidify and help their cause. Probably a few quad 1 wins, probably a few quad 2 wins, and that'll jump them from first four out to last four in, maybe usurping a Memphis or usurping a Michigan that I think we're on different sides of the spectrum. I might be more on the public side where I think Michigan might falter here late. So Dayton might take their spot. Indiana, too, seems like a weak last four in, but I worry to bet against Big Ten teams because every game's a quad 1 game.
Yeah, you got so many opportunities there. Like you win 2 in a row. It's like, whoa.
What's your bids question? And then
before I get there, I want to hit you with the hypothetical Memphis question.
Love this. Give me the hypothetical. Penny Hardaway gets fired at the end of the season. Yes.
So they started pretty well, right? Then they had that weird lull, kind of bounced back, another lull, and then bounced back pretty well recently. Like the SMU loss wasn't great, but they've been playing pretty well. So they've played themselves back onto the bubble. Here's my question. If Memphis makes the tournament, how would you advise someone, or how would you go about like betting them? Would you consider like if they get in like, hey, they're so hot and cold, I'm taking like a Final Four future? Or would you be like, I'm immediately fading? They strike me as a team. You know how there's always that one team that like is in the play-in 11 seed and then makes a Sweet 16? They could be that team because they're so talented. They just are like wildly inconsistent. Or do you avoid them? What's your
No, they aren't that team because you know what? You're thinking of like a UCLA last year, right?
Sure. I mean, they were playing. They were going to lose to Michigan State, right? And they rallied and they made the Final Four.
Yeah. So the thing normally, in my opinion, when it comes to like those first four play-in games at like random 11 seed that makes a run, it's always a team that was heavily injured during the regular season, then gets all their stars back. Last year it was Juzang was out for a little bit, Jaquez was out for a little bit, then they all come together. And I think Cody Riley was out for a little bit. And they come together all at full strength and they make that run. Memphis is just too temperamental. And I also don't think they're that talented. I think they're poorly coached and like there's a lot of hype around them for no good reason. And this might be too critical on Memphis, but there's no way that I'm looking at a round of 64 matchup with them and betting them. I'm probably not betting the other side. I'm probably staying away from Memphis as far away as I can be. I have no faith in them whatsoever. And I think they're going to lose one of these final games. They might lose 2 of them. So they play Temple, Wichita State, South Florida, and Houston. If they lose to Houston and they win their other 3, so they finish 3-1, I think they're in. But if they lose to Temple, Wichita State, or South Florida, they are out of the tournament.
It's going to be an interesting AAC stretch there. They're a team that I'm fascinated with. I kind of hope they make it just so we can talk about them and kind of how to
polarizing. They upset me so much. I don't know why they upset me so much, but just like there's something about that. Maybe it was Penny Hardaway's answer to a question in a press conference that just rubbed me the wrong way when he was like, I'm working hard. Like, thanks, Penny.
Hey, he's working hard. He's almost got him in the dance.
All right. What's your big question? I'm interested to hear your bid question.
My bid question is, how many bids does the ACC get?
I was looking at this today. So Duke is pretty squarely number 1, right?
I would say Duke is going to make it.
No, my fault. I worded that poorly.
You mean like
standings? They are
yes,
they're
the
your
team.
Future's looking good. They have 4 ACC losses. The next best is Notre Dame with 5, and then I think behind that's Miami with 6. So if Duke can take care of business tonight against UVA, we're recording on Wednesday. They're winning the ACC. They're a lock. They're probably a top 2 seed, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page with that. I think Notre Dame makes it. I think Miami makes it. I think they're a 3-bid league.
I have a hard time determining which. So it's like We think Duke is in, right? I don't think
We
there's
know
actually
Duke is in. We know Duke is in.
Duke is in. They're probably a top 2 seed, like you said. They're really good. They do. They have that 1-game lead. They got a good chance to hit me in my future, according to KenPom. So I feel great about that. One of the best future bets of the year. Anyway, Duke is up top, but then it's like Notre Dame, North Carolina, Miami, Wake Forest, Virginia. So it's a group of 5. And I actually think Virginia Tech belongs there. So a group of 6. Like, none of them feel like locks, but you would think some of those 6 will make it because they'll find a way to do something. I kind of like Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest deserves to be in over some of those. Like, I think they have a better resume than Miami. So I like
UNC sitting there to last 4 bye. So like they're right now like the next 4 in. So they're pretty squarely in. And if you put UNC in, then you have to put Wake and Miami, not Wake. You have to put Notre Dame and Miami in, and that's the point you're putting in 4. And then if you're putting Miami in, I could see you putting Wake in. Like, I think there's an ACC bias here too, that we just like think they're so good that they beat up on themselves. And we kind of do this with the Power 6 conferences, that I kind of worry that there's probably only 3 good ACC teams. I put good in air quotes.
I think there's 1.
That's why I put it in air quotes. It's 1. It's Duke. But then the other 2 that I mentioned, Notre Dame and Miami, more so. I just really like what Miami did on the road at Duke, and they had a couple big wins. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if 6 teams made it. I'm going to say 3 though. I'm going to say
so
3.
Stupid is like, so I'm looking at Heat Check. They have one of the more accurate brackets every year. Top 3 this year, or the last few years anyway. But their most recent one, they have 5 ACC teams. I've watched some ACC basketball this year. Like, that league has no business getting 5 teams in. They might get 5. I like what you're saying.
What are they? Who are they?
I think Duke certainly gets in. And then I would say, like, I think Wake should get in. So I'm looking at those 2. After that, like, I don't think anyone else deserves to be in. But if somebody will, like North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, like Miami, that group's going to get some in. But, like, to me, the only 2 that I would be like, wow, they really should have made it. Like Wake Forest, I think they've been impressive this year. They've done some nice things, kind of taking care of business. They do not have all that many impressive wins, which is going to kill them. So they kind of did a like cupcake schedule to inflate their actual wins. Pretty smart. But they've got, like, at Virginia Tech, they won by like 20. They have a win against Northwestern that's actually not horrible. Syracuse win. Like, they're Virginia, they beat on the road. So, I mean, I think they're good enough to get in. It's just their resume lacks, like, impressive results other than, like, blowing people out. Virginia Tech, the analytics love them. The actual on-court results aren't as good, but I still think they could get in. I think they're better than UVA. Like, I've watched a decent amount of UVA, and it's like, that's not a tournament team. They're playing better.
You're right, but they're 17-10, 11-6 in conference play. They have a win at Cameron Indoor. They have a win at Cameron Indoor. They have a win at Miami. And let's see, what other?
They swept Miami, yeah.
Swept? No, they didn't. Yeah, they did. They swept Miami.
They got 2.
Said Virginia Tech. My apologies.
No. Virginia Tech, they had the split. Wake Forest, they lost. So they have
a loss against Iowa by 1 point, which is a good loss. Looking better and better they have a terrible loss against James Madison.
But I would argue they have multiple bad losses. So it's Navy, JMU, and then I think, like, Clemson by 17 at home is disgusting.
NC
State by 14 on the road is kind of gross. Even UNC by 16 on the road is a little gross. And then they have Duke, Florida State, Louisville as their last 3 games. If you only go 2-1 there, like, they're going to end up getting.
What if it's 2-1 with a very close loss to Duke?
Don't care. Like, they're playing really well late, and, like, if they get in, I get it. But it's just, they're not a good.
What if they're 3-0?
If they're 3-0, then yeah, they deserve. If you sweep Duke with that roster, like, go in, give Tony Bennett his statue, and move on. But at the ACC, it makes me angry because I know, like, they're going to end up getting like 5, or hopefully they only get 3, and there's going to be a VCU or a Dayton or one of these WCC teams that's better, in my opinion, than like a Miami
or a Mountain West team.
Yeah, and they're going to get left out because it's just stupid.
Like Utah State.
I think I'd rather see Memphis in the tournament than I would Virginia.
I would rather see a lot of teams in the tournament over Virginia. I'd rather see. I
wasn't even making, like, I've got my little Virginia thing on, but I wasn't even, not even like a pace of play thing. It's just like they're not good enough to go on like a run, I don't think. I don't know. They're well coached, but
I think they are. And my point is a pace of play thing. Like, they just aren't fun to watch. And like,
no, I love the
okay,
grinded. You're betting on San Diego
You covered
State.
this team for 2.5, 3 seasons. Of course, you like the grinded out style of play. You've seen it all. You know, Tony, everything like that. I'm here to tell you that outside of the final 5 minutes of that Duke UVA game,
You cannot tell me all year you've been betting San Diego State and Colorado State, and you hate grind it out. But you're a big Mountain West guy over here. Can't handle a little
but David Roddy, David Roddy.
That's true. David Roddy's exciting. Does San Diego State have a guy?
I've never watched San Diego State. I just know him on their analytics.
Oh my god.
I'm not staying up to see. Colorado State gets the 9 p.m. tips. San Diego State over there completely on the West Coast. They're getting the 11 p.m. tips.
This is fair enough. But I would just be frustrated if the ACC gets like 5 or 6, which I think the 6 is in play. To me, 4 feels like it would be more fair. And if Virginia's one of those 4, so be it. I would prefer them over Miami, and I think I'd prefer them over. I still think they're more like maybe a little better than North Carolina, but you can't get blown out by North Carolina and say you're better than them. So I don't want any of the ACC. Ideally, the ACC is a 1-bid league in my heart.
I think that's a perfect way to finish this segment. 100% the best way. Quote, the ACC is a 1-bid league in my heart.
It's true.
All right. Moving on from all of that. That was a fantastic. I didn't even have a segment, and there we are just breaking down bubbles and talking about Memphis and ACC bids. Moving off of all of that, Thursday, February 24th. It's a really important day. You know why?
It's your birthday.
No, that's Friday. It's because Gonzaga is going to suffer their first WCC loss of the season.
No, Jesus. Is that a real bet you're placing?
No, but I think San Francisco does cover.
KenPom's only got it at 9, which I thought was interesting because Gonzaga's been on a double-digit tear.
Yeah, they have, and I imagine that line will be a little higher. I think it'll be around 12. I don't think KenPom's is 100%.
Remember the last? You seen this stat? The last time they didn't win by double digits?
When was it?
The Alabama loss in December.
For everyone not watching on YouTube, my eyes are wide and my mouth is agape. A gap? Agape.
Okay. I think they've won 16 in a row, all by double digits.
That's certifiably unheard of.
Good program. Mark Few, he's on my coaching tree, remember? The Bennett Conlin coaching tree.
What was it?
Whatever I was.
Bennett Conlin Institute of Technology, but we only teach journalism.
Exactly.
All right. Real talk. We'll dive into that game next. Ohio State at Illinois, though, first up on tonight's slate of games. Illinois is a 5-point favorite at home in Champaign. They have – sorry, I was watching a dog outside my window. Looked really funny walking. They have Kofi Coburn. E.J. Liddell's another National Player of the Year candidate on the other side for the Buckeyes. Illinois, though, is looking like a top-tier team. I think Illinois wins this game and covers the spread. I
agree with you. I don't have a ton of analysis there, but I like Illinois. I'm starting to slowly buy into the Illinois bandwagon.
Kofi Coburn, and this is all I have to say on this game because there's not too much. Kofi Coburn is an absolute machine and one of the most fun players to watch.
This is like horrendous analysis. He's so big. Like that's what I like when I watch Purdue and I watch Illinois and I'm just like, that man is a tank. And Kofi Coburn is a tank. Like I think of the way he abuses like Big Ten, like big guys. I'll just imagine like what would happen if like I got it. They're like, oh, you sir from the stands.
Yeah.
Like I would die. Like that guy's nuts. And it's hard to stop that unless you like. There's some guys if they have skill or something, like they're a really good shooter. Maybe you like try to double team them or trap them. You just have to be huge. Like you could double team and maybe try to get the ball out of the post, but if it's 1-on-1, there's not a lot you can do for a guy who's just like a lot stronger than you.
And like he low key has moves too. Like if you put a double on him, he can split the double team and just yam it home.
Yeah, he's a very polished player.
We'll talk on air about what they said on a broadcast about him that irked me. Gonzaga at San Francisco. I prefaced it. I think San Francisco covers the 9-point spread. You talked about how Gonzaga's beaten everyone by double digits dating back to December. Do you have anything else to say on this game? You think Gonzaga covers based off? I assume you think Gonzaga covers what might be a 9-point spread.
I kind of like them to not cover eventually, and the game being at San Francisco has me excited. So I kind of lean with you there. Would be a good one too, I think, just for like the metrics. If San Francisco could keep it really close.
I agree. Right now they're the next 4 in, or so the first 4 buys. So
they deserve to be in.
Yeah, they're a top 25 KenPom team. They're really good in the WCC. If Gonzaga wasn't there, they'd be the best team in the WCC. What Todd Golden, who's on my coaching tree, has done with that team is pretty great.
Interesting pick.
Any other teams on Thursday? I'm looking at the slate. You could talk UCLA at Oregon. Huge game for the bubble.
I think I'll get to that in best bets.
Okay,
I'll mention that one. I do want to mention a couple mid-major ones, though, on
Belmont
Thursday,
Murray
real
State.
quick. Belmont Murray State's just an awesome game. Murray State won the first meeting by 22 on the road. So I think interested in this one. I think it's a good bounce back spot for Belmont. Not sure they cover, but I think it'll be a more competitive game and worth a watch. And the other one, South Dakota State plays at Oral Roberts. Looked up the pronunciation, make sure we have it right here. So it's Max Asmus, I believe.
Asmus.
Yes. Wanted to make sure I had that right because this guy's a certified bucket, which we all know, right? Because he ran through the NCAA tournament last year. He also shoots the ball like a lot, which is part of why he's a bucket, because it's like, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a volume scorer, but I do love that phrase where it's like, this guy's a volume scorer, which just means he's going to shoot the ball like 45 times and score 20 points. Anyway, he's a bucket. Both these teams, defense is optional. They play crazy fast. I'm going to get into that in best bets, but the total's looking like it's going to be legitimately over 160, which is just hysterical. So I'm stoked for this game because it's going to be just a million points, and there's going to be, hopefully it's competitive. And that's going to be a heck of a game.
Any other mid-majors?
Nope, those were the 2 ones, and I'll get back to at least one of those in best bets.
All right. Friday, A10 action. Not too much going on across the league, across everything else. It's a lot of
just watch a movie or something.
You just watch a movie, maybe take a drink for me on my birthday. I do want to talk about St. Louis at Richmond. Richmond's favored by 1, but St. Louis is the much better team here. But Richmond needs this to keep pace in the A10. I think they've lost all the hopes at making into the tournament, sitting at 18-10, even if they went out with wins against St. Louis, Dayton, and St. Bonaventure. Could be big, but I think they're the next 4 out probably. So they need kind of a miracle to get in, whatever that was. But I think it'll be a good game regardless. I think Richmond wins against St. Louis at home.
Really? I kind of like that spot, especially if they're favored. I feel like that's one that maybe you'll have a public underdog in St. Louis that you can be going against.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. All right, Kansas. I'll let you pick the first couple of games here.
Yeah, Saturday's awesome. Saturday
is amazing.
Really a great slate of games. So Kansas shot the crap out of the ball in that first meeting between Baylor and Kansas. They won by 24. A lot of points. I love Baylor here. I think Baylor is a great spot. They've been playing a little bit better. I think they've been reasonably consistent of late. So I like Baylor in that spot at home. Looking at KenPom's got it as -4. That's one of my favorite bets of the weekend, I think. Really good slate across the board, man. This is insane. Kentucky, Arkansas. Oh, I think I'm tempted to go Kentucky here. I think I'm tempted to go with Kentucky, but we'll see what happens the rest of the week. I don't think that'll be a best bet. Could be a good game and worth considering because Arkansas has been playing really good basketball. And then Auburn, Tennessee. If Tennessee is favored in that game, I think I would go with Tennessee to kind of play the number a little bit. Auburn's looked a little bit more beatable of late.
Auburn has. That Florida game, I think, kind of showed some flaws in their game plan. They don't have a traditional big Castle Smith or something like that from Florida.
That guy
had a I think he's like a 7'2" big guy, slender, but he did work against
Castleton
Auburn.
or whatever.
Yeah. He did work against Auburn, and then that was kind of the thorn Auburn side.
Yeah, was kind of surprising considering how good Kessler has been. But yeah, Colin Castleton, one of the sneakier players. Florida's on the bubble now, I guess.
Oh, the win over Auburn, but I think Florida's 1-4 over its last 5, and its only win was against Auburn.
They suck, but they're like on the bubble, according to some people. What the hell is that about?
Here's a game: Purdue at Michigan State. Purdue's favored by 2 on the road. I think Purdue wins this game pretty handedly. I think here's a good spot where we can talk about Michigan State at a little bit more at length. They've been terrible over their last 3, 4, 5, 6 games. 1-5 over their last 6. Losses to Rutgers and Penn State, and then they've also, but these are more respectable losses, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Absolutely terrible from Tom Izzo's group, and I don't think they fix it against Purdue.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with them. They've not been great. They've had a couple competitive losses, and like Penn State's been a lot better recently. So like, all right, you lose on the road to them, and Rutgers playing at home is like a freaky good
cheat code.
Yeah, bet. So I don't know. Kind of an interesting little mix of matchups there, but really hard for me to look at Purdue with the size and the way they're playing and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take Michigan State to beat them. I'll probably stay away, but my guess is the line's gonna end up being way bigger than -2.
Yeah, I think it will be too. But also the problem is Michigan State's one of their key contributors is Malik Hall, and he's been injured and battling a injury the last couple of games. He was questionable heading into the last game they played. He was questionable, didn't know if he was going to play against Iowa, and ended up playing. So you wonder how much that's impacting everything with that team. Anything else on Saturday? I mean, it's a packed slate. You could throw a dart onto the board and get any game is better than any Friday game.
Much better day for sure. Not too much else there. I think I'm going to end up taking Virginia Tech to beat Miami on the road. I think Virginia Tech's going to have a little bit of a push here and ultimately make the tournament.
Really?
I do. I believe in them.
Wow, go Hokies.
Got the metrics on their side for whatever reason.
They do. They're a top 32 KenPom team.
Again, some of that I think is the scoring margin.
Okay. Do they blow out a lot of teams and keep it
They've
close?
got some blowouts and like a couple losses that could have went the other way. And if it did, you'd be like 18-8 instead. It would look way different on paper.
That's a really good observation. Thank you for pointing that out. One game we need to talk about, Towson at JMU.
Yeah, I kind of like JMU, the Wednesday game. They're right around 9. I think +9, +9.5. I like that for them.
This will really help the listener as it comes out on Thursday.
No, I just don't know that I would, I guess, see what happens in that one and maybe base your Saturday pick if you want to pick JMU Towson. I will say it's the last game of the season on Saturday for JMU because they don't have any ability to play in the CA tournament. So I think if they lose Wednesday, maybe take them as a money line underdog because I think they'll be fired up. It's senior day for Charles Falden, last game of the year. I like that logic, even though Towson's better and JMU has nothing to play for, but just a little burst of like, hey, we're done after this.
I think regardless of what happens tonight when we're recording, sprinkle a little bit on JMU money line underdog because they're a good team. They just have had nothing to play for, and they finally kind of have something to play for here in the last game of the season. Exactly. And now Sunday, moving right along, this is going to be a good day.
Yeah, I'm going to take
2 games, and after that, it's
I'm taking Michigan over Illinois. That'll be on.
No,
my
you're
slate.
not. No, you're not.
That'll be on my.
No,
slate.
you're not.
That'll be on my slate.
No, you're not.
Yep.
You're insane.
Not insane. It's a good matchup for them. They're at home. Illinois is going to be coming off that nice win midweek over, what was it, Michigan State?
Ohio State.
Who's Michigan State? Purdue. Yeah, so they'll beat Ohio State. Then they'll go to Michigan. They're going to get spanked. And Juwan Howard's going to be just going crazy to himself, going through his, court.
You're insane. I can't believe that you're picking Michigan to beat Illinois. You're wrong.
Okay, well, should we hit
Ohio State at Maryland? You're actually going to tell me you're taking Maryland to beat Ohio State and have Ohio State?
I'm not betting that game. I have no interest in that game. Maryland's dead to me. I'm never considering betting them. Because I was like, oh, maybe an interesting play against Iowa, and they give 110 points. So there is absolutely no reason for me to put any money on Maryland for the rest of the season.
That was my favorite. I remember vividly. You're like, if Maryland, depending on Jekyll and Hyde, they might come out and they might be able to really just keep this one.
I'm glad I didn't suggest that as like a best play.
Speaking of best plays, let's dive into it. You ready for it?
Go.
You hit me first.
I have to go first. Unbelievable. All right, I'm trying to get back.
You always go first in your 15
kidding.
million plays. Jeez,
trying to get back above 500. Want to make sure I have all my stuff here. I have some bets that you're going to think are pretty darn stupid, but I don't care.
I think all of your bets are stupid. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Oregon spread against UCLA. That's probably like +6. I love that as a play. I think I'll sprinkle money line, but the best bet, I'll say spread here. Be a little saving only in case they lose a close one. We are taking the South Dakota State Oral Roberts over, folks. Ken Palm has it projected at 169, which is absurd. I don't care. I hit the VMI Samford over last
almost
week.
hit the VMI outright too.
I did. Went to overtime, which helped a little bit. What was it, 199 combined points though? And they did hit the over in regulation too. So just stupid levels of over. This is another one where both these teams play crazy fast tempos, especially offensively. They both take like 15 seconds of possession. So they're going to be flying back and forth. They're horrible defensively. They're efficient offensively. I don't think either team has any like qualms about what this game is going to be. There's no defense. There's only offense and fast offense. So take the over in that game. Try to get it early because it'll probably close at 220 or whatever. Just kidding. But it'll be very high. So I've got the Oregon and then that one. Those will be – I've got one more Friday play here. Near Washington, D.C., where I am, the Georgetown Hoyas, Jack.
Oh, no.
They have not won a conference game. They're 0-15 in league play.
Remember when they won the Big East last year?
Yeah, they had that little tournament run. That was hilarious. They have not won. So I guess what have they not won a conference game since that? That's awesome. So they've no conference wins this year. They have 4 games left. So here are the 4: DePaul, Connecticut, Seton Hall, and Xavier. Which one of those games sounds winnable?
DePaul.
Yes, only DePaul. It's at home and it's Thursday. The players are not dumb. They go to Georgetown. It's a great university. They know, like, if you're winning a conference game, it's now. It's this or maybe the conference tournament. But if you're trying to avoid, 0-19 in conference play, it has to happen now. It has to happen Thursday. Ken Palm only has them as a 2-point dog. All right, let's take it then.
Are you going Georgetown Moneyline?
I'm going Georgetown Moneyline. They're going to find a way to do this.
Versus DePaul?
Yeah, this is a horrible game. But I like them in this one. I think they find a way to win. They celebrate like they've won the World Series or NBA title, NCAA title, all of them combined. It's going to be an incredible celebration.
Out of everything where there is a trophy at the end of their season, you picked a sport that has nothing to do with.
I just feel like they have a better celebration.
Okay, whatever.
Like the World Series is over and everyone comes rushing in. They mob the pitcher. I think it'll be more like that.
Even those with COVID, infected with COVID, that were pulled off the diamond minutes earlier.
Justin Turner's going to be there in DC, so I'm looking forward to that. But those are my 3 on Thursday. Obviously, we have more plays. Let me double check my sheet, make sure I don't miss any because there are so many. I think I skipped Friday because Friday stinks. So we go to Saturday. Baylor -4 over Kansas or whatever that spread ends up being. Baylor over Kansas. We're going to take we'll take Tennessee over Auburn.
Really?
My guys. Yeah, why not?
Spread?
We'll take spread. We'll take spread. We will also take Virginia Tech money line at Miami, chance that they are a dog.
Okay.
And we're going to take Wisconsin spread. Wisconsin spread at Rutgers. So they already lost at home to Rutgers. Rutgers is really, really good at home, but I think they've gotten like good at home where it's like a super public play. So if you see Rutgers as an underdog and you're like a casual person on Saturday, you're like, Rutgers can't lose at home. So yes, they can to the Badgers. So that'll be my final play. I'll take Wisconsin money line or spread. What did I say? Spread. I think like -1 or 2. So it'll just give you a little bit extra value there. Yeah.
All right. I dig it. Excuse my yawn there. My apologies. All right.
About my best bets because they're so freaking good. So I think I only had 7.
Probably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had 7. You ready for mine?
Yeah, go for it.
I got Thursday. We're starting it off. Well, I have to bounce back. This was my first losing week in 6 weeks. A month and a half. I hadn't had a losing week. I was on a roll. So we have to get back to our winning ways. And you know how that's going to start? It's going to start taking San Francisco spread against Gonzaga.
I kind of love that for you.
I think it's a dangerous one, but it's a best bet nonetheless. We're going to skip Friday like you. We got 2 plays on Saturday. Play number 1, we're going to take JMU Moneyline over Towson.
On Saturday.
On Saturday. Purely because of the spot.
That.
Purely because of the spot. And then second, there's one I really want to take, and I'm questioning it. I'm questioning it. Do I do it? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take UNLV to upset Boise State.
Is this because they broke your heart so badly last week when you had Colorado State and they whooped them?
Kind of. No, I know how tough it is to go into the Thomas and Mack Center with UNLV and win. It's a tough place to play. Like,
well,
no way around.
Bother you last week.
What was that?
Didn't seem to bother you last week when you got Colorado State.
It didn't.
I know how tough it is. I love this.
With that being said, UNLV lost to Boise by just 6 points at Boise State, and now they're coming home. I think UNLV has what it takes to take down the Broncos. KenPom has them right now as +1, and it's a close game. And it's kind of fishy to me because Boise State's 26th in KenPom and UNLV is 81st. So you think that line would be a little bit more with such a discrepancy between their KenPom standings. I think home court advantage. I think everything coming together. Give me UNLV money line against Boise State.
Okay.
So that's 2 underdogs outright on Saturday, and then San Francisco, the underdog to cover. I'm an underdog heavy this week. Will it bite me in the butt? Maybe.
Are we getting more than 3 out of you?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to add one more that I did.
Of course you are.
That I did forget to play that I mentioned. I do want Michigan money line over Illinois on Sunday.
That's a terrible bet.
It seems like one of the locks of the weekend. So I have 8 now. I have 8, which also gives me a little freedom. If I go 5-3, I'm back to 500.
Okay.
So,
or if you go 0-8, you're 10 games under.
If I go 0-8, then I'm due for a hot March Madness. So maybe I go 0-8. Such is life. I think I'll probably go at least 7-1, realistically speaking.
Sorry, I'm writing mine down really quick. What was my UNLV money line?
You had UNLV money line over Boise State, James Madison Duke's money line against Towson. This is probably, to be honest with everyone here, probably one of my favorite plays of either of our best bets. I think it's the JMU money line over Towson that you suggested because of the spot, because they will have just played that team last game of the year for them. And you could get them at like +200 or more.
Yeah, I think you're going to get, like, looking at it, it's going to be a large spread, and you're going to probably be able to get JMU. I'm thinking like probably +250. Like, they're going to be a large underdog.
So I think they're a fun one to take. I also think if you're like, I know a lot of people, I don't know exactly the demographic of our listeners, but I imagine there's some people who enjoy just like putting a fun 3 to 5 team parlay. Might be a fun play, or like a round robin or something to have that juice in there if you do end up getting it. So I think that's one of my favorites just because of the value on that one's higher than some of the others.
Yep. Anything else you want to add? Any other plugs you have? We plugged your mibets.com article. Anything else you want to plug before we get up on out of here?
Not too much. Arkansas, you're getting sports betting soon. So our Arkansas listeners, I'm sure there are hundreds.
Maybe.
That's good news for them. They're going ahead of
if they all listen from one phone.
Right. but I'm looking forward to March Madness. We're very close. Conference tournaments are very close, especially the mid-major ones. This isn't plugging anything, but I'm excited for the future podcasts with you and some of the analysis on this.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of content coming your way on the website at drf.com/sports. A lot of content just between live streams on Twitter, on the podcast feeds, everything like that. Going to try and get some guests here in the next couple of weeks, some mid-major specific guests.
Ooh.
Maybe a couple betting experts that can jump on and give us insights on how to bet the tournament, best ways to bet. But I want to give the mid-majors some love. You look around at other national podcasts, other things like that, and they don't give a lot of mid-majors the love they deserve. I think we should try and get some good mid-major guests on to really show that there's a lot of value in betting those dogs come March. Like Colgate last year. I know Colgate didn't beat Arkansas, but a lot of value in that one.
Totally agree.
If you took the first half bet on Colgate, you were golden. But second half.
That's exactly what we want to find. We want to find a mid-major that's going to have a hell of a first half and then choke away their NCAA tournament live.
And with that, thank you guys for listening to the DRF College Sports Podcast. We'll see you guys next Thursday. Check us out on Twitter at DRF_sports, on Instagram at DRF Sports. And you can check out Bennett on Twitter at Bennett Conlin, BENNETTCONLIN. Don't forget the second T. See you next Thursday. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the DRF College Sports Podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show. For more sports betting advice, go to drf.com/sports, and you can follow DRF Sports on Twitter at DRF_sports.